Okay, it's 7 o'clock, sharp. I was told I had to start sharp this evening. Okay. I need a motion to reconvene open session.
So moved.
Thank you, John and Eric. Any discussion? All in favor of reconvening open session, raise your hand. Motion carries. Okay. Welcome to our monthly board meeting. Thank you for attending this evening. If you would stand, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We don't have any visitors signed up to address the board, and there are no recognitions, so we will move forward to the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve all items on the consent agenda as presented.
Motion. Second.
Thank you, Rob. I don't know who was second. John. We'll go with that. Any discussion or any items that need to be looked at more in depth? Everybody's good with those items? Okay, then all in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, raise your hand. Very good. Okay, that gets us to the superintendent report. On your mark, get set, go.
All right, a few things in the superintendent report. I just included our Perkins agreement. It's a consortium agreement that we have with Jefferson College for our area technical school, or ATS, when you hear us talking about it. I just include that document in agreement with them under there in the PDFs so that we have it for reference and such. The primary fence project has been completed and also put some of the pictures that Mr. Bess and his team had taken of that project. At our last meeting, we talked about some D's and F's. We talked about bringing back just some updated information on that. In visiting, Melissa visited with the administrators. I don't have specific D and F information, being just because the time frame hasn't been that long. But I can tell you that our administrators had visited and talking about some strategies about how to reach out to students. Some of those, and this isn't all inclusive, but Dr. Freeman and Ms. Phillips made home visits today to some students on like our virtual students who haven't done anything. They're going to get a letter from me. Is you're not, if you have 2 or more Fs and you're not engaged, you will not be allowed to be in virtual education. And just for kind of varying students that the administrators are getting us a list. They've been working all through the semester to reach out, but we're also I'm gonna pipe into this as well and even discuss potential retention, because that's what we're at. At the younger levels, is retention, is a situation where we have students who are going to back themselves into a corner and subsequently have to use some of the other resources that we have in the district, but we can't have enough room in Mr. Ramsey's building to address all the students who aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And also reaching into parents who aren't doing what they're supposed to do. And so including hotlining some parents, because it's educational neglect. If you choose to educate your student and you're using us and our virtual means, you have a responsibility. If you're not going to do that, then there may be some parents that choose to withdraw their student and homeschool them, but that's on them at that point. So that's kind of where we're on that. I will keep you up to date at our next meeting. Or, it's kind of a month down the road. Hopefully we're further addressing some of those issues. As far as reentry plan updates, We had an admin meeting, and Ms. Hildebrand has been working to kind of coordinate on a few different items. One of those is the starting 4 days a week, we are going to need a calendar adjustment for second semester. So we had some suggestions at central office, kind of talking about it, and she emailed that to the calendar committee. And this officially will come to the board at the November meeting for approval, because we're going to have to resubmit it. But just to give kind of a heads up, is all but one of the buildings is in favor of starting second semester on the 19th of January. Currently, we have the end of the semester is scheduled for the 14th of January, which is a Thursday, and a teacher workday is Friday. Is the feeling and the feedback that we're getting is leave the teacher workday as Friday, the 15th. We're off on that Monday, the 18th, due to the federal Martin Luther King holiday. So then kids would start, because that's the high school coming back, would be, everyone would come back on the 19th, and that Wednesday would be virtual. So they could do curriculum or whatever Mr. Groner would have for at the high school level, and Mr. Allison bringing them in and kind of organizing. It also, I assume, would also help us out in Mr. Bess on having a 4-day week to try to, if we have to bring in different supplies, because we're kind of changing that over. Also along those lines will be, because we are going to be having the virtual Wednesdays and we're planning to do it all through the semester on our calendar. As such, because we don't, based on the information that we have now. So that's the plan, reentry plan that it's submitted to DESE. And the thought process is, if we are doing virtual, then like the professional development day on Monday, February 8th isn't as necessary. So absorb that and make that a student attendance day. There's 3 of those in there. If you remember, our current calendar says if you have 3 snow days, the first 3 are forgiven. Okay? We will leave the last day of school still to be the 27th of May. So we'll go to school the 27th. But the first 6 snow days will not be added to the calendar. So there would be 6 that would not have to be made up. Okay? The first 6. And even if we got into 7, 8, 9, 10, at the very least, that's not going to push us back more than the first week of June, in a worst case scenario. Along those lines, and this is with Ms. Hildebrand, we may bring this in November. Typically we would in December. We've been talking about doing summer school again in July. But getting that information out to parents, because we saw that's one of the benefits we saw with that is it gives people a break a little bit and the kids between the end of the school year and coming back. It allows Mr. Bess and his team to get the buildings clean, a little bit less rush, and for the kids, especially at the lower levels, provides more of a jump start. You're starting the race rather than coasting into the finish line and having to go to more school. So switching that and doing a July summer school, that's our thought process right now, and we'll bring that back for finalization. Also regarding calendar, typically last year we approved the following year calendar in December. I don't foresee us doing that. That may be in February, just to see where we're at with this current situation. I had submitted the letter to DESE requesting a waiver to bring the students back, and that I received that this morning early back from them that has been approved. So I've included both the letter to DESE and the letter back from DESE and the attachments underneath the special, underneath my report. Also, just put some information in there about Special Olympics. is our district and our special education teachers, Ms. Lambert, our administrators, still want to do our Special Olympics bowling tournament that we typically have in the fall. So that's going to be on November 4th at 9 a.m. at the intermediate. So an invitation, stop by and see. That's always a great day with those kids. The school lunch waiver that we have through Christmas that's providing free lunches for all students has been extended through the rest of the school year. So pending approval of a waiver that Ms. Jackson has submitted already for us, and we're waiting on that approval. But we anticipate that occurring. Also related to finances is on October 7th, Governor Parsons announced $61.5 million allocation of relief funds. And so each district has their set allocation amount, and ours is approximately $238,000, Ms. Genge?
Yes.
$238,000. But with these funds, there's stipulations, is they have to be spent and submitted within a certain amount of time. Okay? And that's a lot of money. And Ms. Genge has been doing an amazing job. It's to the point there's a lot of funds that the district has access to, but some of our own matching funds, you have to use county funds to then match and federal, and keeping all of that straight, doing it so that if we get audited, you know, that it shows like those funds were used for that purpose. And so a lot of our PPE, the masks, and such that we've purchased are Chromebooks early on. And those type of things, we're able to allocate those funds. So with this $238,000, we're in a rush to spend it, which is, it's actually complicated to try to do that because we don't want that to go to waste. Our thought process is we have, you know, Chromebooks that we've talked about that are, we ordered a bunch this year, but we have approximately, how many are going out of service? 1,200 out of support next school year. So to get a good jump on that, I asked Mr. Moore, we're supposed to meet tomorrow. He was going to go shopping to see if we can't find those to get ahead on next year's, but we need those. We're going to need them long term to continue to support our technological needs. That's something that is a big chunk that we can allocate for, that we can use out of support Chromebooks, but it's not ideal, especially in this day and age when education has changed and using that. So along those lines, this is going to have to move fast. So in order to get them and then pay the bill by the end of the year, it has to be paid by the end of the year, is how, I guess, I don't know if it has to be approved, like the paying of the bill has to be approved, but the purchasing of the Chromebooks should be, you know, I'm not necessarily comfortable signing John Isaacson's name to $200 some odd $1,000 without the board weighing on that purchasing of it. And so I don't want to call a special meeting, but could we would the board be comfortable having a special meeting, even if it was via Zoom? That's going to be the only agenda item, is approving the purchase of that, to be transparent with the community. That's why I bring it up tonight, is if we can get that, it may even be as soon as next week, because a company, similar to what happened in July, was we were able to slide in because another district was waiting. So if Mr. Moore can find those, we need to move fast so that we can get a PO locked down. But we also are bound by Board of Education posting rules, etc., with giving prior notice, sunshine law. So if we're able to do a Zoom meeting, which will be public on that, but it would not require everyone coming in. Is there, would everyone be okay with that, or would they prefer to come? Okay. Then that's, I'll keep you updated, and we'll post it in accordance with all of our regulations, policies. Let's see, I think that's it. That's okay.
All right, there is, we do not have any old business or unfinished business, so we'll move right into new business, and we only have 3 items. So the first item is to approve a resolution authorizing the defeasance or the prepayment of $1,990,000 of the District Series 2019 bonds. So we're prepaying our bonds for 2019. I have a first from Rob and a second from Eric. Is there any discussion on that?
I guess my only question was the second sentence there, the legal, financial, and other costs not to exceed $2 million. Is that real? That's a very general sort of, that's not what it's going to be like. We're not talking like mostly legal.
No, it'll just, there may be a little interest, but I have a feeling that it's mostly going to be legal because Gilmore and Bell has to do some paperwork and file that paperwork with, to change our direct deposit agreement. And
Okay, and then that's not like, this isn't like a penalty we wouldn't be paying otherwise.
No penalties, just help, just some interest that we may owe, you know,
That we would be
depending
normally
on the
paying.
day we pay them, right?
Yeah.
And then I would imagine some legal for him to do all the paperwork and submit it.
Is it going to be around that much, or is it going to be up to, I mean, what is it?
It will not exceed that $2 million, so I
Okay.
guess, what, $20,000?
Is there a ballpark there, or is it going to be around that? Or?
I think until that we know the exact day that we're gonna make that payment, they can't give me the interest,
Okay.
and then he
Gotcha.
hasn't told me what his bill is yet.
But we don't have the date yet. Okay, any other discussion on that prepayment? Okay, all in favor of prepaying those bonds? Motion carries then. Next item is dealing with graduation, early graduation. We need a motion to approve students who are requesting early graduation.
Motion.
Thank you, Rob. Second, John, did you say second? Okay. So these students have met the requirements and they had their letters posted. Are there any questions or issues about this list?
Not necessarily about the list, but I've had a couple of conversations with John. We talked yesterday, and over my 6.5 years on the board, I've definitely seen this list grow quite a bit. Plus, the reasons that students are requesting definitely have changed tremendously. And so I personally have asked, and I hope that some of the others might support this, that before next year, that we can kind of look at this program more seriously to make sure that the students are receiving the academic, emotional, social, that balances the financial expense that the district incurs here. This particular group of letters, but I think there were 7 or 8 of them, some of them really kind of raised a red flag for me. In that there's a lot of for grammar, punctuation, and yes, I've seen that with well-educated people as well. Many of their reasons, without knowing the background, kind of appear to be like immature thinking. And so, I as a board member need to really trust that every single student will be benefited by graduating early. And this is probably the first time, well, a little bit last year, that I can't say that I really feel that way. So I'm just asking that before we do this again next year, that we do kind of pull in and look at more seriously, pull in for teachers at the high school level. Are these kids at the level they should be before they graduate? All that kind of thing. Just because I've definitely been changed my
I kind of feel the same way. I think this is an issue that we need to look at and study. Because some of these letters were very good, and I think justifiably, justifies early graduation for some of these kids. But some of them were immature and had unrealistic expectations, I guess, and I just think that this is something that we need to really evaluate in, for next year. So we'll make a note for our agenda for next year, I guess.
Okay, any other comments about this topic? All right, so the motion is to approve the request of high school early graduation applications. All in favor? All right, the motion carries. The last item has to do with approving bus routes. So I need a motion to approve the 2021 blue and white team bus routes. Thank you, Rob and Eric. Discussion over those new routes. I thought I saw Regina. Any questions about those? Everybody's good? Okay. All in favor of approving the bus routes for 2021?
2 minutes. Come on.
Okay.
Come on. One
Motion
minute,
carries.
come on.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Thank you, Rob. All in favor? All right.
John did it.
7:22 seconds. Or minutes. Now you can tell me what's. Thank you for attending this evening. Sorry it was so short.